Hello, everybody. I just wanted to do a quick vlog on this Memorial Day weekend to talk about DMs, bad DMs, players. I'm going to give some suggestions to DMs. So I know there's pretty much no bad DMs are going to be watching this video. Because as I explained in the past, DMs that are trying to get better at their craft, that actively go out and try to become better DMs, those DMs are never going to be bad DMs. The bad DMs are the people that already think they're doing things the correct way. They already think they are the best creative people possible. And those are the people that I've always found to be very terrible DMs. And it's a shame because I know in the recent past, people have tried to go up and try to say certain people can't be DMs. And unfortunately, that kind of talk is really only going to drive away the people who are unsure of themselves in the role as the DM. And unfortunately, those people are the people that are really the best DMs overall, I've found in the past. This whole little vlog was pretty much set off because of a D&D Reddit post, which was succinctly somebody making kind of a jokey post where it's like, my DM is being awful, what should I do? And their reply is either talk to them about it or quit the game. And so basically, I think this is the thing about the Reddit where it's like, I guess a lot of people are fed up with people questioning bad DMs or questioning bad players. Specifically, though, on the Reddit D&D site, it seems like they don't really want to... There's a lot of people on there that seem to be DMs and they don't want to deal with people asking about bad DMs. And there's just a lot of there's a lot of really weird, sort of negative feedback. And, I'm certainly not active on there anymore. I was only really active on the Reddit D&D thing briefly because of an AMA that one of the D&D developers did. And then, so a lot of these people are claiming the people on there are just basically saying that they didn't try to talk to their DM about issues that they're having, which is, I think most people that are asking are just basically trying to get a starting point where they can really talk to their DM and try to figure out some way. And unfortunately, with a really bad DM, which a lot of these Reddit questions that I've read about bad DMs is, you're not going to really solve that problem. You have to go and find another game. Talking to them only makes the issue worse, because there's actually a really bad undercurrent of the D&D DM is always right. The DM creates the entire world, and you have to play by those rules, and that's it. And that'd be awesome if the DMs were actually going with what's in the books, but they're actually playing by their own rules, and that leads to a lot of issues. So here's a couple suggestions about how to avoid being a bad DM. And if you notice somebody that is being a DM for you and you're a player, and they're pretty much doing the opposite of what I'm saying, really just consider getting a different group, because at this point, there's just a lot of weird support for people who are doing bad DM stuff. So, don't use homebrew for new players. Just don't do it. The vanilla game has been tested, and it works great. Now, there's this whole big thing about people saying that level 1, it's too easy for the players to die, which is it's crazy. If you actually read the rule book, everything is in there to pretty much showcase that the DM controls everything. It's very easy to set up a first couple sessions to make sure people aren't going to die. Yet, DMs are pretty much saying that they're not. Now, if you want a good discussion of this, please go to the D&D Beyond page where I post my whole little thing about asking why people are starting off players at 3rd level instead of 1st level. And once you get past then you'll know, yeah, there's actually a bunch of really good reasons why you should start people out on 1st level in D&D 5e. And the people that are against that, they really don't have a huge amount of great arguments of why a lot of people are starting out at 3rd level. And really, all these arguments, all the points made in this thread also are good to talk about when you're talking about using homebrew. Because all the arguments for homebrew are essentially the same as the arguments people are trying to make for starting players out at third level or something like that. Or doing ridiculous things like giving them extra hit points, doing all this stuff. Like the game, I've never had an issue, not once, with starting people out at first level. Like the game is kind of created that way for a reason. So again, I will put that link below if you want to check out that D&D Beyond page where you can just see a lot of combined knowledge of people just explaining why first level in 5e is very useful and great, and you should just do that and don't try to homebrew it or start players off. And again, I'm specifically talking about new players. I think all players really can just do, you can spare an hour or 2 hours to get through those first couple levels. Because really, you're talking about a brand new player character where it doesn't really make any sense. And if you're talking about new characters, when I started out as a player in 5e, I was a barbarian. I was going to go berserker, but like things that happened in that first couple hours, it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, certain things happen. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of want to speak to animals. That'd be awesome. That'd be really interesting. So I ended up changing the path that I was going to take for my character based on what was actually happening in the game, which is really what you want. And I had a much better time of it because, boy, oh boy, I mean, the issue of saying, oh, you know, I'm going to plan out my character and then start at third level. A lot of choices are already made. And for a brand new character, like, you know, it's interesting how it differs. Now, if you're already dealing with people that have played a lot and you're already dealing with a DM that you've played with and you know what's going on, then yeah, sure, you can start at whatever level you want. If you're doing a dungeon crawl, sure, you can start out whatever level you feel is great. But honestly, if you're dealing with new players or you're dealing with a new DM that you're not used to, then I would consider starting off at level 1 to be a very important thing. So if you are a brand new D&D player and your DM wants to start you off at some ridiculous level, even though you are a brand new player, that's a warning sign that you might just want to find a different game. Because frankly, I don't think there's that many DMs that can actually pull that off correctly. To have a brand new player start out a game and have them start off at a level that's not 1. It's weird. Let players use stat and point buy for games with new players. So rolled players will inevitably be either too powerful or too weak. I mean, it's just so weird to me that so many rolled players end up being these hugely powerful players, and it sucks. And it screws up the game balance. It honestly does. And I think that's interesting. Certain people are going to have a substantial benefit or a substantial penalty. Like, it just sucks. If people are experienced players and you want to do that, that's fine. Go ahead and roll. But if you're going to be starting out with new players, just use stat array or point buy. Just do it that way. That way there's going to be no issues with people. And plus, that actually creates an interesting thing. Because, again, D&D 5e, this is no longer about being superheroes. This is no longer about being these heroic people that are amazing. These are about being adventurers, which should start out as, you know, somewhat normal people. And they don't really become like super human people. They became more experienced. And you know, the game really promotes creative play from level 1 to 20. So it's not about being this all-powerful, heroic person that you're so amazing. That's not really what the game is geared toward at all. It's really geared toward being an adventurer who's, you know, pretty good at some things. So that's why stat array is pretty great, I think, because then you'll always have a mix of a party where some people are going to be better at other stuff and some people are going to be good at some stuff. And that way you have a reason for the team to be a team because, you know, they have different abilities that really mesh well, and they have a reason for being a team and having different people do different stuff. So, you got your new players all together, you're all set, you're going to be using the vanilla rules to start out with, and then once you get into the game, then you can decide to use homebrew. But then the issue is about setting. And a lot of people are trying to say that you know, what you want to do is just start out with a completely custom setting that you're going to spend all this time working on, and your players aren't going to know anything about it because it's all custom. It's a far easier and better situation if you just use the Forgotten Realms setting. AMA I was talking about beforehand, Mike Murals, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. he was specifically talking about Forgotten Realms, and he noted that it's a generic thing, but there's actually like little deep things about it. And what really matters when starting off is shared knowledge. So it's important that it's a generic world, because then anybody who's first starting out in RPG kind of knows what's going on. They know goblins are bad. They know what different roles are. They've seen Lord of the Rings. So they kind of understand what the world is that they're in. While it's very interesting to take players and put them in this brand new world where they don't know what anything is, like, that sometimes takes away from like collaborative play, and it's also not the greatest situation to put brand new players in. So, and again, too, I've seen that so many times where DMs have done this completely custom world stuff, and it's just like, oh, well, nobody knows what the hell's going on, and it's not like a fun, exciting thing. It's just like, oh, we have to just eventually wait for the DM to explain what's going on, and it just destroyed any sort of collaborative narrative, and it basically stinks. So, I mean, if you want to go from the Forgotten Realms setting to a brand new, awesome setting of your own creation, sure, you can do that later on in the game. But first, starting off with new players especially, just stick with the Forgotten Realms. There's so much stuff there you can do with it. And again, that shared knowledge thing, that's the super important thing. And again, when your players are comfortable moving on, then you can go on to a different setting if you feel that you are creative enough to do so. And again, this brings up another thing, like creativity, and like, is there a dark side to Critical Role? That's what Scotty from the DM's Craft was trying to talk about. I think Critical Role is amazing. And again, Scotty was getting so much hate for this, which is hilarious. Matt Mercer had to take a break from brushing his luxurious hair to just say, hey guys, stop shitting on Scotty, because he's just trying to make a point. And Scotty's actually trying to make a really good point. He's trying to make the same point that I tried to make when I was talking about the Adventure Zone, when Griffin was saying that no one would ever die in his game, and how I tried to step in and say, hey, player death is actually something that helps raise the stakes and helps pull people together in a game where you're not necessarily three brothers playing with their father, all of which have broadcast media history, all of which who are comedians for a living, and they're doing a podcast, just like the Critical Role thing. Like, they're doing a podcast and a video thing. I don't think it's a podcast, it's a video thing. It's similar to issues that I was talking about with the Adventure Zone, where these people are like creative for a living. So they're going to play a much different game than just a group of people who might not even be close people. The vast majority of D&D games I have played were the people, I eventually got to know the people and be friends with them. But when the games first started, like, I didn't really know them all that well, and they didn't know me all that well. It was the game that kind of brought us together, and then later on we became friends, and then we could later on, do more creative style play and stuff like that. But when you first start off, there's no way you can run a game like Critical Role would run, or like the Adventure Zone would run. It's not going to happen. In any case, I think that pretty much sums up my thoughts. It's just a real shame that like he got like more dislikes than likes. That sucks, because I think he was just trying to make points that I tried to make in the past, and nobody really gave a shit about my video. It got like no likes or dislikes. But I would suggest heavily that you head on down to D&D Beyond the forums. Now, I'm assuming the forums are going to be available to the public, and that's always going to be free. I don't know, though. But I know they're free now, and I hope the forums stay free. Because, frankly, when you go on Reddit and you ask a question like, why are people, starting off players that are brand new to RPGs at level 3 instead of 1? Is there a reason for doing this? Or is it just because certain people said that's the way to do it, so everybody's just lockstep, well, that's the way to do it? When I went on Reddit to try to talk about that, my stuff got downvoted right away. Like, people didn't like my attitude that I had. But more importantly than that, and again, people can hate me and downvote me on Reddit, and I understand why they would. I'm honestly not the I'm not the most likable person, and I'm not a person who's going to go along with the general crowd on certain people that people like. I'm just not going to like them automatically because it's like, why would I like this person? Just because other people like them? That's a stupid reason. But on Reddit, there was absolutely no discussion or good arguments or points about why things are like that. If you just search for the forum thread, starting a game with 5e, level 1 or 3, and I made a little poll and everything, and as you can see, 84% of the people think you should start at level 1. And that's a way different number than you get the impression of. Just 4 pages of forum comments, talking about, all this different stuff. Like, I don't know how many people responded. It was a lot. And the people who were saying, the very little minority who were saying you should start at level 3, they were actually trying to get a decent argument about it, which you didn't get on Reddit. Nobody was actually putting forth a decent argument. And the vast majority, again, 84%, who were saying, no, you should probably start out level 1, they were actually doing a much better job than I did about explaining why you should start out at level 1. And again, they were saying the same things I was saying, but in a much better way. So again, if you are having questions or just want to gain knowledge, I would say the D&D Beyond forums right now are the best place. It seems like the combined knowledge there is just so much better than some of the other areas online that are just, seemingly terrible. I mean, it's I don't know what else to say. There was a ton of people on the Reddit original question who were trying to say, hey, yeah, well, it seems like you should really, every situation is different. So if people are coming to D&D Reddit to ask a question like this, like, it kind of stinks that certain people are kind of just saying it's like, just either talk to them about it or quit the game, and just implying that they didn't try to talk to them about it. And, maybe it's a situation where they can't quit the game, and it's like if they quit the game, then they're not going to be able to play in real life. That was the situation I was in when I was in a smaller area. Like, there wasn't anybody running D&D games that I knew except for the one person that I had a very bad experience with. And eventually I just had to kind of, just realize, hey, I just got to stop playing because this is just dumb and it's a waste of my time. And if the DM is going to be awful, then yeah, you just got to quit the game. So in one sense, this, Reddit post really nails it. All I can say is that D&D Beyond forums, I hope they stay free because they are shaping up to be a much better place to discuss the game. If you have any questions about starting off as a DM, please leave them below. If you have any questions about starting off as a new player, well, I would say post them below. But as always, D&D Beyond right now is my pick for where people should go to answer these questions. And I would like to say to DM Scotty, yes, there is a dark side to Critical Role. And no, I don't think you deserve all these downvote. I don't think you deserve all these thumbs down for all that stuff. Like, this is kind of crazy that, like, just bringing up an issue. I mean, he tried his absolute best to bring up the issue of, listen, guys, you're going to be disappointed if you try to play your game like Critical Role. You're not going to be able to pull it off. And guess what? I agree with him. If you try to play the game like they're playing, you're going to be disappointed. You're probably going to be much, much happier if you just play by the vanilla rules to start out with and find your own path in the game, because that's always the best way. And again, if you have a DM who is forcing his own thing down your throat to start off, then that might be a bad DM. And you might have to find a different game. Or you might have to run your own game. But, there are good DMs out there, and I wish you the best of luck to find yours. As always, have a great day, and thank you for watching the video.